a lot of work to do.
Once a rebel, always a rebel.
Literally, this is what happens. Like a senator, you have Mon Mothma, it's all surrounded by senators, and the senators are, because Hera's talking about, like, listen, we believe that there's this ex-Imperial who escaped, and, that she's building a device of some kind to probably rescue Grand Admiral Thrawn. We're like, Grand Admiral Thrawn's dead! We won't investigate. It's like, can we just send the fleet there to investigate? Nope! Why? Because he's dead! But what if he's not dead? Nope. That's what the conversation was. It's like, what are you talking about? Let's just check. Let's just it's a quick hyperspace jump away. Just go boop, boop, and we'll be right back. All right, point A to point B. All right, we'll boop, boop, and that's it. It's just 2 boops. It's just 2 boops away. Okay? Like, it won't cost anything. I think people would like a nice change of pace, People are getting lazy. Let's just boop. All right? And no booping. No booping to see if Grand Admiral Thrawn is indeed back. It's like, no, he's not. And it's like, oh, come on. Hello, I just wanted to thank you for clicking on my video, and I wanted to let you know not only do I create content in my YouTube channel here, Class in a Glass, but I'm also on Twitch where I play single-player games, multiplayer games. I do movie reviews, cartoon reviews, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Also, it would be a big help if you can check out my Patreon, where you can gain access to audio commentaries, reactions, and the ability to submit questions for my podcasts and videocasts. And all that content can be found in the links below. In the meantime, enjoy the video. I want to go ahead and I want to move on to the next part of my show, and that is my review for Ahsoka Episode 3. And for those that don't know the synopsis, the plot of this particular episode, after learning the location of Morgan Elsbeth's secret project, Ahsoka, Sabine, and Hera hope to enlist the power of the New Republic fleet, but are denied due to political bureaucracy and corruption growing stronger in the New Republic. I was asked before I started this review kind of what my overall thoughts are on the show so far. Now, at this point, we're only, 3 episodes deep, and I believe, there's about, 8, 9 or so episodes of the show. And listen, I am enjoying it so far. It is fun. And it's great seeing, a lot of these characters that I watched years ago in Star Wars Rebels and Clone Wars. I mean, Ahsoka originally came from animation. She was a creation of Dave Filoni, and was one of the main stars of that series, and was one of the big supporting players in Star Wars Rebels. And we're pretty much picking up from where Star Wars Rebels left off, years later, in which we're trying to find out where Grand Admiral Thrawn and Ezra Bridger are. Someone who really enjoyed that show and also Clone Wars. It's interesting. It's kind of exciting to see this all in live action. I've been kind of going back and forth in my own head. It's like, will people who aren't as knowledgeable about those shows, will they understand what's actually happening? Will they be confused? And I definitely assume that people would probably be, a lot of them would be confused. But then I've heard from other people who are saying I was able to pick up on it. I knew exactly what they were talking about. So I was like, okay, fair enough. So I guess more people are, understanding the show than not, right? But in terms of the quality, it's a bit of a mixed bag. I do feel like at this point it's certainly better than something like Star Wars, like Boba Fett or Obi-Wan Kenobi, or certainly the last season of The Mandalorian. It's definitely not hitting, in my opinion, it's definitely on the same level of quality as something like Andor. But it's been fun so far. It's been fun so far. But specifically, getting to this review. For this review, much like this episode, it will be a short one. And that's been kind of like one of my criticisms of a lot of Star Wars and Disney Plus shows in general, including the Marvel shows too. It seems to go back and forth to me between going on, for these episodes going on for way too long, or, such as in this case, just rushing through it way too fast. Without the recap, the opening credits and the end credits, this episode is probably somewhere between 25 or 28 minutes, just under half an hour. And I'm just really getting frustrated with that. If you don't have enough material for a particular episode, just combine it. Just combine it with another episode that you already have, and just have a shorter episode count overall. It's like they need to hit this like quota or something. It's like you don't need to hit a quota. Just if you want to have hour-long episodes, then maybe have less of them. That would be better. And this is a mini series after all. And having an episode that's a little over an hour is fine with me if you feel like you got to combine them. Or just have more interactions and conversations between the characters. Or do a little world building to get a better sense of the state of the galaxy. Other than focusing on Sabine's training, which is a lot of this episode is focused on, and Ahsoka and Sabine find the hyperspace ring and a starship battle, we do get a sense of what the state of the New Republic is, like kind of for the first time. We've always got like little bits and pieces of what's actually like going on with the New Republic and in some of the, the movies that we had over the last couple of years and some of the TV shows, but not enough to really sink our teeth into and get like a better sense of, okay, what happened, after the Galactic Empire fell and the rebellion took over and now they are the New Republic, In this particular episode, we learn that the New Republic is filled with incompetence.
Morons.
and morons. Though the rebellion, seemingly won the war, they are struggling to rule and are especially inept at governance. I'm not against the idea of the New Republic failing under the weight of its resurgent bureaucracy, that basically that it just allowed to proliferate, and later uses an explanation as to why like Thrawn's return is unopposed and what eventually gives rise to the First Order. But I need more than a scene that's barely 5 minutes long showing some senators stonewalling military tactics because of reasons, quote unquote. There's like no reasons given. It's just like, who cares, right? Literally, this is what happens. Like a senator, you have Mon Mothma, it's all surrounded by senators, and the senators are, because Hera's talking about like, listen, we believe that there's this ex-Imperial who escaped, and that she's building a device of some kind to probably rescue Grand Admiral Thrawn. Like, Grand Admiral Thrawn's dead. We won't investigate. It's like, can we just send the fleet there to investigate? Nope. Why? Because he's dead. But what if he's not dead? Nope. That's what the conversation was. It's like, what are you talking about? Let's just check. Let's just it's a quick hyperspace jump away. Just go boop, boop, and we'll be right back. All right, point A to point B. All right, we'll boop, boop, and that's it. It's just 2 boops. It's just 2 boops away. Okay? Like, it won't cost anything. I think people would like a nice change of pace, People are getting lazy. Let's just boop. All right, and no booping. No booping to see if Grand Admiral Thrawn is indeed back. It's like, no, he's not. And it's like, oh, come on. Let's get into the corruption of the Republic. Discuss the fact that fighting a war is perhaps easier than trying to rule after one. There's a lot of genre content like Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, House of Cards that make political intrigue fascinating to follow. I don't want a Cliff Notes version in Star Wars. Let's go ahead first. All right, let's go ahead first into it and really explain what is actually going on in the galaxy. I think there's been just fear of getting too political in Star Wars because I think initially, but especially in the prequels, it was handled so poorly.
I love democracy.
It's like we covered the bureaucracy, but the way in which George Lucas chose to show it, chose to explain it, like made it boring. Talking about trade routes, having these Senate committee meetings, and they're so dry and everything because the acting was so dry, because the dialogue was poorly written. Like, that's the reason why. But like even in the original trilogy, like politics was always a part of Star Wars, and it was interesting. One of the scenes I always go back to, and we're right in the middle of the bureaucracy, is in episode 4, A New Hope, where we have Tarkin with all the other Imperial Moffs, discussing the Death Star. But you also realize, like, oh, Grand Moff Tarkin, his dialogue, he's talking about how the Emperor has completely wiped away the Imperial Senate, and now the governors, like Grand Moff Tarkin, all these other people, they now have absolute power over their various sectors. Like, that is actual politics in Star Wars, and that's interesting, right? But the way in which it's weaved in there, you don't even think about it as being politics. It's just like, oh, this is really cool world building, and we get a sense there's an emperor, and there was a Senate, but now it's gone, and now they have this Death Star. It's like, that's cool, right? And they were very subtle with it, but still delved into it when it was necessary, and I really like that. And, like, Andor, I think, succeeded in spades when it came to incorporating politics in Star Wars. Like, the whole premise of the show, other than focusing on Andor and him becoming a rebel, joining the Rebel Alliance, it focused on what is it like for ordinary citizens, for schlubs, for schmucks, to live under fascism, to live under the Empire. And it made it really interesting. It made it inspiring. That show is extremely political. And it works so well because it has all of that in it. So it made politics and Star Wars very interesting. And it's like, this show feels like, it's almost like, it's like it's dipping its toes in the politics, but it's afraid to go like headfirst. It's like, no, go headfirst into it. I want to know why the New Republic is so incompetent. I want to know why they are so corrupt. I want to know why, because of their inaction, it gave rise to a resurgent empire, to Grand Admiral Thrawn, and what I imagine will later be the First Order. Like, that's world building that you can get into, but the show feels like, well, we're a little nervous about that because politics of Star Wars, it's been criticized before. It's like, it's been criticized before because it was handled poorly, but when it's done well, and people praise it, like in Andor, like in the original movies. So go into that, please. I want you to. Stop tiptoeing around it, because it would be a lot more interesting if you did go into it, because when you just tiptoe around it, when you just kind of like don't go into it enough, then characters just come across just being stupid for the sake of being stupid. Like the senators are like, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to give you all these resources. Why, Senator? What do you mean? I need more than I need a little bit more. Let's go into it. Let's explain, like, why is this guy operating the way he is? Like, all these other people just following him. Like, that could be interesting. It makes other characters, like, in retrospect, look dumb. Like, Mon Mothma, who we finally learn is the Chancellor. She is the Grand Chancellor of the New Republic, which we always assumed she was. Like, is she going to be? We saw her in Andor. Like, most recently, she's been popping up since, she originally, the actress, I forget the actress's name off the top of my head, but of course, she was originally in Revenge of the Sith, right? But all those political scenes with her were removed because they weren't all that great. But it was kind of like the early formation of the rebellion, and like Padme was a part of it, and they just scrapped all that stuff. Gave poor pregnant Padme nothing to do except waddle around, right, and cry. But, they at least gave her something, but apparently it didn't work. And then it's cool they brought her back for Rogue One, and of course, she's been popping up in these shows, and she's been used the best in Andor, because we see her as this as this very politically savvy person, and she becomes very interesting in how she is. She has to represent her planet, but then there's this weird archaic culture traditions that was forced upon her, and it's like, oh my god! And we finally kind of see like what's that like, and how she's lived under that. She's in a loveless marriage, and her daughter is like like a budding fascist. It's like, this is like really interesting. And I liked her story in Andor quite a bit, and we're going to continue to see that. But then here, it's like you bring her in for like what is a glorified cameo, and she's more privy to what it's like to live under fascism and still be able to politically manipulate people to get what you want more than any of these other people that we're introduced to. And it's like you're not doing enough with her. It's just like, there she is, and she's being incompetent for reasons. It's always reasons. We don't know what the reasons are. And so that's frustrating to me. That's really frustrating to me, because there's absolutely more that you could do with that. And it has been. It's proven that you can make that interesting. And they just, for whatever reason, they just don't seem to be focused on that. Again, the primary story that we are focusing on clearly is the relationship between Ahsoka and Sabine, and them getting over whatever issues they have with each other to accomplish their mission, find Admiral Thrawn and find Ezra Bridger. That's the main focus. But still, it's like you still want to, like, make the world itself and the background things interesting. And so far, I don't feel like they have, or they're unwilling to do so, which is frustrating to me. Now, listen, in terms of the action, we get a nice starfighter battle that's, I think, well put together and features some cool sequences. Everything from spacewalks to maneuvering around giant space whales. It's definitely fun. But it just feels like it was cut too short and is leading into an episode that will probably be more interesting and have some better character engagement. Matter of fact, I absolutely do believe that. That's exactly what's going to happen. Because looking at the trailers is like, oh, this is definitely going to sink into this next episode, and where we're actually going to have our heroes interact with the villains for like the first time and have some interesting conversations and have a nice back and forth, like have a nice rapport, which again goes back to my point. This episode should have been combined, I think, with the next episode. And it's like, I have no issue with a nice hour-long plus episode, believe me. Like, a lot of HBO shows are that way. Everything from, Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon or such. Like, a lot of this stuff is not afraid of being too long. It's like, yeah, on average, maybe they're like a little over 50 minutes or so. But it's only been over an hour. I'm like, just go ahead and do that. It almost feels like the way we have to hit a quota of episodes. Like, who cares? Who cares if the episodes are long enough and have a lot of interesting things in them? Like, I don't mind like a 6-episode series, all right, if you give me some nice, long, interesting episodes. But they don't seem interested in that. Again, like I said before, for my first review, going forward, I'm still interested in Ahsoka. And I'm curious, the role Grand Admiral Thrawn is going to play, along with, Ezra Bridger, who they've brought in from Rebels. I think this show, while, again, better than something like Book of Boba Fett so far, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and certainly the last season of Mandalorian, I don't think it's going to be for everybody. I think there's going to be some stuff people are going to miss, especially if you have not watched Clone Wars and Rebels, those animated shows. But at the same time, like, a lot of people have said that they do understand what's going on, and they're not confused, and they do understand where Ahsoka is from and Sabine's from. It's like, okay, fair enough. So I guess maybe I was too harsh to that degree, saying like, I don't think people are going to really understand this, but I guess a lot of people have. So fair. I guess my at the end of the day, the only thing there's two really big things I'm concerned about. It's just that, are you going to end up rushing through these shows? Like, are we going to get to a point where it's like, all right, we gotta get to the end, and where it doesn't feel natural? And are you actually going to delve into the behind the scenes as to like why the New Republic is the way it is? Because it doesn't seem like they want to do that yet. It's like they've always been kind of tiptoeing around it. Even Mandalorian, they were kind of tiptoeing around it. Because I think that would be interesting to really get into. Because if you keep continuing just to kind of like dip your toe in just a little bit and just pull out and not focus on it, then it's just going to make the world itself kind of, and the Republic just look really stupid. Which maybe that's the point. Maybe it's just filled with dum-dums, Chad. Maybe that's how it is. But I don't know. I feel like the writing could definitely be better there. I'm not disliking Ahsoka. I know this review probably sounded like really negative. I think there is a lot of great stuff in this episode that is fun. You get some cool Star Wars shenanigans. David Tennant as the droid Hu Yang, he continues to be a blast just to hang around. He speaks his mind. He's sassy, Chad. Like, he's great. But there's concerns that I have, and I'm hoping it can get to a place where it's like, hey, there's a sense of consistency. I'm not feeling that consistency. It's ebbing and it's flowing, Chad. Ebbs and flows. So we'll see. But that's what I thought of Ahsoka episode 3. I'm actually very curious to hear what other people think about this show, and in particular this episode, the shortest episode yet. Are you looking forward to the rest of Ahsoka? Do you have the same concerns they have, or have you just been loving the show? Let me know. I hope everyone enjoyed the video, and I want to take the time to tell you about my Patreon, Class in the Glass, which offers hundreds of film commentaries and video reactions to numerous movies, TV shows, and cartoons. If you're a fan of shows like Batman the Animated Series and Avatar The Last Airbender, or films like Aliens and Raiders of the Lost Ark, my Patreon is the platform for you. Currently, I'm doing a subathon to reach 75 subs on the platform. If we hit 75 subs, we'll be able to start voting on the next edited YouTube reaction, which will include actual clips clips and scenes from the movies and shows I comment over. Choose from such films as Fire and Ice, Masters of the Universe, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie, Mortal Kombat Annihilation, or Spawn. Subscribing at any tier level is appreciated, and feel free to give feedback at any time. Thank you again for watching the video, and see you next time.